This is not an NFL show. This is a college football show, obviously. And judging by our comment section, not a whole lot of huge NFL fans out there. It seems like everybody's much like us, just following Clemson players and stuff. But what I am excited about, I'm excited to kind of, this is going to be a fun show, I think, because I just like talking Clemson football, and these are some great former Clemson players, right? They had some amazing highs in their careers. I think, every single one of these dudes won a national championship at Clemson. So that's pretty cool that we can say that. And I like just talking Clemson football in general, and it's going to be fun to look back at these guys' careers at Clemson, from the recruiting process to, kind of how they did at Clemson and all that kind of stuff. Going to be super fun. So I guess without further ado, we'll just dive right into it, right?
Let's do it.
I think I want to start on the Philly side of things. So we got two players, right? So we'll start on the Philly side of things. We'll start with K'von Wallace. He was from Highland Springs, Virginia. Had a really good career, I think, at Clemson. He was there from 2016 to 2019. So he is a two-time Clemson national champion. How about that? That's pretty amazing. He really cemented himself as one of our key defenders for majority of his career. What's one of your top memories of K'von?
Yeah, I mean, really, it was just his steady play. I've said this a lot about him. I felt like during those years, he kind of was he kind of flew under the radar. He had some really, really big plays over the course of his career, but he really, playing on the defenses he did, playing alongside guys like Isaiah Simmons and James Skalski, and he was on the 16 team, Ben Boulware, that all the defensive linemen that Clemson went through, AJ Terrell, Trayvon Mullen. It felt like he kind of got lost in the shuffle, but he was really, really consistent throughout his career. He made some really, really big plays. Steele Gamble mentions, how well he played against NC State. Yeah,
NC State killer. Yeah,
yeah. He was just a really incredible player. Went under the radar. I think he was a 4th round pick coming out.
Fourth round pick 127 by Philly.
Yeah. And he's done nothing but, people were, it wasn't really a guarantee that he would stick in the league. He wasn't considered a really high, caliber player, but, he's started for the Eagles for a few years now. And now he's one of the, their key contributors on that defense. And so, man, K'von just a kind of an unsung hero of a lot of those Clemson defenses, played some really big time football. And gave them some really, really good plays and memories over the years. So excited to see him play, especially since he'll probably be the only Tiger that's actually playing. So yeah. Did you see him get? Did you see him getting that little scuffle?
You mean when he got tossed to the ground by what's his name? That big number was 71.
Oh shoot, who
that
was
dude is massive. What was his name? Hold on.
Oh man, I'm forgetting. He got
tossed. He looked like a child being removed from a situation he shouldn't have been involved in, which is pretty funny. What was his name? My goodness.
Man, I don't remember. Trent Williams. Yes.
Trent Williams. There we go. Yeah. Trent Williams. Yeah, thank you. That dude is massive, by the way. I don't know how tall he is, but he makes NFL players look like children. And as you know, Clemson fans gather at the Paul at the end of the game, right? So you go on the field and you see some of these college dudes. These dudes aren't small. Even the dudes that you think are small aren't small, right? The dude is Massive. But yeah, I think it was pretty funny. I don't know what was going on. I didn't really watch that game, but I definitely saw the highlight where he was in a scuffle with someone, and there was another offensive lineman that kind of picked his legs up and then put him back down, but he was still engaged with like whatever he was doing, and wasn't paying attention. And then Trent Williams just comes in and like snatches him like he weighs like 5 pounds and tosses him on the ground. And then they both get ejected from the game, which is
Yeah.
hilarious as well because the game was over. But
Yeah, it was a
I get
blowout.
it. Emotions run high. I don't think San Francisco was very happy with how the game went for them. So probably a little bit of emotions there. But yeah, K'von, man, he was a dude that if you look at his stat line at Clemson, he like consistently got better at Clemson, right? So going from not playing very much his kind of first 2 seasons to really getting in the rotation the 2018, 2019, and then 2019, 2020 seasons. And really that final season, his last season at Clemson, what was his best statistical season, right? Um, he had like 70 something tackles that season. He was, I think, third team All ACC
Yep.
for the first time in his career. So he was really a guy that Clemson always talks about being a developmental program and really growing guys up. And I think K'von was really an example of that. I mean, you mentioned how you could get lost, and it's not very difficult to get lost in a defense like Clemson, especially those defenses. I mean, there were names all over the field, right? Clemson fan favorites all over the field that you could kind of get lost in. But he was a guy that, really progressed as his career went on and got better. And a cool stat that, I was kind of looking up some stuff about him preparing for the show tonight. He is tied for the most games played in school history.
You know
Which
what?
is pretty crazy.
I believe that because it felt like he was
Yeah,
there. It felt like he was, at Clemson forever. I mean, I know he only
yeah,
played 4 years, but I
yeah.
think he played almost 60 games over.
Yeah, he's
He
got
appeared in over almost 60 games in his
yeah, he's
career.
got
So
59 career games. He's tied with
wow,
Tanner Muse and Christian Wilkins for the three Tigers
wow,
with the most Clemson games played. So
that's cool.
that's pretty awesome, man. Like that's consistency, right? Like you playing in that many games. First of all, you're staying super healthy, and obviously you're competitive on the depth chart uh, because you're out there playing consistently. And those were not, if you're not good, you're not playing on those Clemson defenses. So, really excited to see K'von Wallace. I don't know how much he plays for the Eagles. I don't think is he a starter?
He is a starter. He is
He
a
is a
starter.
starter.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So, I mean, even better. I mean, working yourself into, that kind of role. It's pretty awesome, man. He had a great career at Clemson. 178 career tackles, 5.5 for loss, 21 passes broken up, 5 interceptions. Um, I mean, he had a really good career. 36 starts, like I said, 59 total games played in a Clemson uniform. Just consistent, like just consistently got better. And then I said third team All ACC in 2019. So just a really good Clemson Tiger, man. A guy that is easy to forget, but is also a guy that
Uh-oh. I hope that's not just me. I hope that's not my internet that's going out. Um, but to kind of piggyback off of what he said, yeah, maybe Kayvon is kind of the epitome of um, the what Clemson really stands for as as a football program, and what Dabo Sweeney has really tried to preach is that Clemson is a developmental program. And Kayvon, I mean, he got on the field, but not only did he get on the field early, the more he got on the field, the better he got. And that's kind of just the Clemson philosophy, and he's kind of the epitome of that. So just really excited to see him play. Hopefully, he makes some big plays in the Super Bowl. He plays. I mean, he's a starter. Um, And he was on some really great Clemson teams. He started for some really great Clemson teams. So excited to see him play. John Sarian asks how many teams has Wallace played for in the NFL? Just one. He's been on the Eagles since he's been drafted. I think when he was drafted, I think he played a little bit on a practice squad, and then he moved up pretty quickly. So not only was he a later round pick, but he managed to work his way on the depth chart, and that just kind of speaks to his work ethic. I mean, he came from a really, really good high school. Highland Springs is one of the best high schools in Virginia. And I think he'll be the. I think I saw some stat. I think he'll be the second player ever from that school to win a national championship at all three levels, or a championship at all three levels. He won a state championship in high school. He won a national championship in college, 2 national championships in college, and then if he wins, if the Eagles win on Sunday, he will have claimed a Super Bowl ring. So, and he'll be the first, or I think the second from that high school to do so. So really cool for him. Shout out to Richmond and Highland Springs. He's gotten some really good players from them. So
absolutely. I think I'm back. I think I'm back.
Yes. Yeah, you sound great.
All right. We got it. Don't ask me what happened. I don't know. I have no idea. But we will drive on.
I thought you cut your mic for a second.
Yeah, I thought I did too. And then like my screen like flickered, and I was like, so I just stopped talking. I didn't know if you guys could hear me or couldn't hear me, but I didn't want to step on anything because I couldn't hear you guys anymore. So yeah, Helium Paul Craven. Hey, I might change my name to that. That might work out.
Yeah. Just kind of put that on this. Just kind of put that as StreamYard has this new feature where you can put how you can write your name, and then underneath you can have a subtitle or a subheader. So you can,
that's what I got to do right there. That's what I got to do. Yeah, that's exactly what I got to do. And I got to get a new computer. That's for sure. But we will keep driving on with the show. So that's K'von Wallace. Shout out to K'von. Good luck to him in the Super Bowl. We'll actually get to watch him play, unlike the next 3 guys that we're going to talk about. But these next 3 guys had amazing Clemson careers in their own right. Their NFL career may not be going as well as K'von's, but they had amazing Clemson careers. And we'll talk about Mario Goodwrench next. So he's out of Lee Summit, Missouri, played at Clemson from 2018 to 2021. He was, I think he was first committed to Nebraska, wasn't he? Before he flipped to Clemson? Am I right about that?
I actually don't remember. You might be right about that.
Yeah, so I think he was, correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong, but I think he was originally committed to Nebraska, flipped to Clemson. But kind of, he kind of ended his career on a bang. Do you remember the end of Mario Goodwrench's career at Clemson?
Who doesn't?
The Cheez-It Bowl, right? That crazy tipped interception. I think he had the game sealing fumble recovery. Forced fumble that kind of sealed the game for Clemson against Iowa State, which is crazy. Like what a way to finish your career. I think he got didn't he get MVP of the Cheez-It Bowl?
Yeah.
Am I wrong about that? Hold on. Let me look.
You're right.
I am? Yeah. So he got MVP of the Cheez-It Bowl. Got that crazy pass breakup that he returned for a touchdown. And then that forced fumble. Just what a way to end a career, man. Absolutely crazy. But no, go ahead. You're good.
Yeah, no, Mario is he's kind of a guy that he had a different path than K'von as far as really playing in a ton of games and being a starter, a multi-year starter. That wasn't really his path. I mean, Mario was not a low ranked recruit. I believe he was a 4-star on most sites.
Yeah.
But it took him a long time to get on the field, and he had some maturing to do. And Dabo talked about it in his senior year, how much he had grown from his freshman year. He was a guy that he needed more time, just from a maturity standpoint off the field, and but he played, and when his number was called in 2021, you remember coming off that 2020 season, uh, you lose Darian Kendrick. Well, he got kicked off the team,
Got kicked off the
and so
team.
you
Yeah.
don't have him anymore. Um, and so you're really thin at corner. I mean, you have Andrew Booth, and then a lot of question marks, and you needed that. You needed one of the corners opposite him to step up, and
Yeah.
Mario really had a phenomenal season his senior year. Just
Amazing
when
season.
Clemson needed him, when Clemson needed him to step up, because I mean, with Andrew Booth being as good as he was, I mean, teams were throwing away from him. So it often meant that Mario was the one getting picked on, and he stepped up to the plate, and he had one of the best. He had his best season, and he had just one of the best cornerback seasons individually in the conference. He did get first team All ACC with Andrew Booth.
They were the first time in a long time that two from the same school got first team All ACC.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
he had
good.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you
I
off.
think we're on a lag. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, no, Mario. He just he's one of those, another kind of example of what Dabo is trying to accomplish as far as the culture at Clemson and being a developmental program. He took a different path. He didn't. He appeared in some games, but he was never a really big time contributor until his last year. And he really stepped up to the plate when Clemson needed him, and they were two of the best. Him and along with Booth were two of the best corners, probably arguably one of the best corner duos in the country. I know I think he, as far as Mario is concerned, I think he graded out higher than Booth did in on a lot of sites as far as just his play. And Clemson had one of the best pass defenses in the country in 2021. So,
right. Yeah, I mean,
and then you talk about the end of his. You talk about that final game of his career against Iowa State in the Cheez-It Bowl. Ironically, Brock Purdy, who ended up, who thought Brock Purdy would end up being a starting quarterback and taking that. Taking the 49ers to the NFC Championship.
That's wild, dude. That's wild.
Mr. Irrelevant and everything. But no, just Mario, he went off in that game. The tipped interception was pretty phenomenal. I was really hyped about that because, man, Clemson was struggling to move the ball offensively, but that was a huge play in that game and kind of put it out of reach for the most part. And then he made the final. He did make that final forced fumble on Iowa State's final drive. And so I thought that was a good exclamation point to his career. Just a phenomenal player. He developed into a phenomenal player. And hopefully we get to see more of him. This is his first season in the NFL. Didn't play much. He's seen some action. He's gotten activated a couple of times throughout the season. But hopefully he's still on the roster, and so hopefully we'll see if he can work his way into a bigger role. Felt like it's kind of upsetting that he went undrafted with the season he had, but
I felt like he would get a chance, but I mean, honestly, drafted or not drafted, really for those for the later round guys, there's no real difference, honestly.
Honestly, it's better sometimes to go undrafted than be a late round pick because you get to kind of field your who you want to go to, and you can kind of work out your contract a little bit more.
Right.
So in some cases, it's better to
go where you fit best. Yeah, I mean he's a guy that's not going to quit. I can tell you that he's not a guy. He's a guy that's that's certainly going to put in the hard work that it takes. And if given the right opportunities, I think he can absolutely flourish into a contributor in the NFL. I mean, you look at his career, and you talked about it. Kind of a late bloomer at Clemson, right? He didn't start a single game until his junior season, right?
Yep.
And he only started 4 games that season. His senior season was really his breakout year. That was the year where, Mario Goodrich came out of, kind of out of nowhere as far as his play on the field. I mean, Clemson fans, we obviously knew who he was and all of that stuff. But, to your point, there was concern about our cornerback situation, right? Because we had lost DK and, he got kicked off the team, whatever, doesn't really matter. But we had
he was a 2-time all ACC corner that you lost.
Right, exactly. Like you had, that was a huge hole to fill. And we had Andrew Booth over here that we were pretty confident was going to be, pretty much a lockdown guy. But that's going to put an even further spotlight on the guy starting opposite of him. And he did nothing but, lock up, first team all ACC cornerback along with his co-cornerback over there and Andrew Booth. So pretty cool thing, man. 42 total tackles his senior season. His highest total tackle in any other season other than his senior season was 13, and that was his junior season. So, that tells you the jump that he made. And, you hear Dabo talk about it with certain players about how he thinks they're capable of doing something, but it's either they're not buying in enough or, their preparation is lacking and stuff like that. And you could just tell with guys like that, it finally, something finally clicks, right? Either they 100% buy in or they start trusting, that they have to put in that preparation and stuff. But his senior season was an absolute, what a way to end your career, right? Probably wasn't the career that he thought he would have at Clemson. But certainly, I don't think you could write a better way to end it than that Iowa State game in the Cheez-It Bowl, winning MVP, getting a pick, return for a touchdown, and forcing the game-sealing play on defense, right? It doesn't get better than that. So I hope he continues to have an opportunity and really get better and have a long NFL career. But he was a national championship player at Clemson, so he too has a ring. He doesn't have 2 like his buddy K'von, but he does have 1. So he was a freshman on that 2018 Clemson team that made a run. Wasn't really involved in that run, but hey, guess what? You get a ring anyway. So
yeah, you do. That's all right.
He was on the team, right? He was on the team.
He was national champion.
Yeah, he was probably running a scout team or something, but that's okay. So that's Mario Goodrich. That'll do it for our guys over in Philly, which are actually favored to win the Super Bowl. Believe it or not, I do believe it because when you look at the overall team. But let's pop over to Kansas City. Our boy Justin Ross is who we'll talk about first over there. And Justin Ross has probably one of the craziest stories at Clemson, I would say. He burst onto the scene as a freshman, right? This dude's from Phoenix City, Alabama. It was a huge deal when Clemson kind of landed this guy, kind of pulling him out of, Alabama's backyard, if you will. He was recruited by Alabama and Auburn, chose to come to Clemson anyway, and really splashed on the scene. He had his biggest yardage season actually as a freshman, which is pretty crazy. Not his most catches, but his most yards and his most touchdowns came in his freshman season. And those last 2 games where he really burst on the scene and everybody learned who Ross was. I mean, he was a contributor throughout the entire season as a freshman, right? But the playoff games, the 2 playoff games, I think he went for like 140 something and 150 something.
Yep.
In both of those
Over
games.
300 yards.
Yeah, over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2 games. He had that crazy catch on the sideline, right? So he really burst onto the scene, and that's the season we really dismantled Alabama. So I'm sure it was fun for him, an Alabama kid that probably got some flack for going to Clemson instead of his home state team, Alabama, or even Auburn. I'm sure he got some flack for that. So I'm sure it was fun for him to end his freshman season just basically dunking on Alabama, which is basically what him and T. Higgins did the entire national championship game.
Yeah.
But he had a pretty crazy season. 2018 national champion, huge contributor. He had 46 catches and 1,000 yards his freshman year. He follows that up by a really good sophomore campaign. He had 66 catches, 865 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So right around the same deal, more catches, less yards, around the same touchdown total in his sophomore season. And then everybody knows that spring he got the news. He kept dealing with those stingers. They thought they were stingers, right? And he was missing time. And then obviously they do that x-ray and they figure out he has some sort of defect in his neck to where it not only became a question of, well, Justin Ross is out, but it became a real question of, is Justin Ross ever going to play football again? That became a real possibility, which shocked myself and I think most of, college football, especially Clemson fans, because it kind of came out of nowhere. When I remember when Ross first went down, they were like, yeah, it's a stinger, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, yeah, stinger. I played football. I've had stingers. They absolutely suck, but, you bounce back from them. It's one of those things where you get treatment and you can come back. But when you hear it's something serious like that, like a spinal injury where, this dude's flying all over the place, getting consults from doctors and, he finds a surgeon that's willing to do the surgery and, they don't know if he's going to come back. He battles all the way back, has an amazing comeback story, right? Comes back his senior season. His senior season didn't go, how we all would have hoped it went, but it was a successful return to football. I don't think he was 100%. He was playing slot, which was a position that wasn't really suited for him, but Clemson just needed him somewhere on the field, and that was kind of where they put him. But he still had 47 catches for 524 yards and 3 touchdowns. So it was a crazy roller coaster ride for Justin Ross. I think he would have had a much bigger stat-wise career and impact had that whole neck thing not happen. But, it shows, his personal resilience to mentally battle through that and then to get back on a football field. I'm not sure even having that surgery, it's easy for us fans to be like, oh yeah, just like he has the surgery, get back on the field. Right. But that had to be a mentally tough thing to do, to have something that serious go on with you, go have this surgery where, a lot of surgeons, told him no, like, yeah, no, don't play. You can't play football again. He found the guy that was confident that he could fix it. But that's a crazy thing. That's a scary thing. So, yeah, that's kind of Ross's Clemson career in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, and probably for a lot of Clemson fans, probably one of the biggest what ifs in recent memory, as far as just the potential that he had. And that I don't think, just unfortunately for reasons that were beyond his or Clemson's control, he wasn't able to fully realize. You go back to, that his freshman season where he burst out onto the scene, and then the college football playoff and those 2 performances against Notre Dame and Alabama. That's going to be forever in Clemson lore. The 2018 college football playoff, Justin Ross is one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen.
100%.
He was unguardable, and just the way he was, the catches he was making, the burst in his release, Just he literally injured one of their corners.
Oh yeah,
Savion Smith.
when he broke that dude's ankles, and he said,
Yeah,
you know what? No, I'm just gonna stay on this field because this dude's been cooking me, and I'm done.
yeah,
He said, I'm done. I'm
yeah,
not
man.
doing it no more, coach. I want to go to the
I,
sideline.
yeah, yeah, man. Savion Smith, shout out to him. Yeah, he had a rough night that night.
Yeah, that was,
And just the explosiveness, the big catchability, and it just looked so effortless for him.
yeah,
He was having fun out there. It was truly one of the most like just the coolest things I've seen from a Clemson player. And just he followed it up with a really nice sophomore campaign.
yeah.
He was kind of the number two to T Higgins, which is kind of why his catches went up, but it's kind of why his
His yards, yeah,
his raw yardage total didn't. And so I mean he was just well on pace to have a really nice junior year, and probably go to the NFL draft. I mean he was a surefire, by all accounts, he was a surefire first round caliber pick. He would have been one of the top wide receivers available,
yeah,
and just the unfortunate news and everything that he had to go through that off season, and just the way he had to battle back. It's a truly admirable story. I don't want to dwell too much on the missed opportunities and all that, but I think Justin is a great Clemson Tiger, and he'll forever be a Clemson legend. He wasn't.
yeah,
I mean, he successfully returned to football. It's just a really incredible story, and so I know he's on IR right now, so there's no chance we're going to see him play on Sunday. But but if the Kansas City Chiefs win, he'll get a ring, so that'd be really cool for him to get that as a rookie. And but I'm really excited for him, and I think the Chiefs are excited for him because I still think he has that ability left in him, and I think it just needs to be. I think he just needs to work his way fully back, and
yeah,
he dealt with some other injuries while he was a senior, and so then that kind of hampered his production as well, and kind of continued into the draft process. So hopefully he can really rejuvenate this offseason, and maybe he becomes a bigger contributor next year. So really excited for Justin. Happy to see him get an opportunity in the NFL,
yeah.
and hopefully I want to see him play because I know that ability is still in him. And I mean, we all know how good he is when he's healthy. So
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And look no further than what his counterpart at Clemson is doing in the NFL. Look at T. Higgins. Look what he's doing in the NFL. T. Higgins is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL right now.
yep.
He may not get as much love as Jamar Chase that's on his team, but let me tell you, he's the real deal. And if Justin Raw, I mean, to James Thomas's point, right? I thought he was, James Thomas says, I thought he was for sure a first round NFL pick. If you take his first two seasons, nobody else would have thought any different.
All right.
I mean, his freshman and sophomore season, you look at those. If he was able to go pro after his sophomore season, he would have been a first round pick in the NFL. No doubt about it. Right. But I really feel for the guy. He is a Clemson legend, not for just what he did on the field, but I mean, it was truly amazing. Just kind of hearing him talk how it was to go through that injury, and kind of trusting that for the first time, getting on the field, getting hit the first time. It's really kind of crazy to hear somebody talk about how that is, and so much respect to him for being able to do that. He will always be a Clemson legend. But I really hope, much like you, I really hope we get to see him actually get healthy. I don't know, like he did come back his senior season, but I don't think he was ever truly healthy that season. I think
he had a broken foot.
Yeah,
he had
he had the
broken foot.
He had the broken foot. I don't know if he truly, mentally was back from the whole neck thing, that's kind of a hard thing to, it has to cross your mind when you're on the field. I mean, it just does, right? Regardless. So if he could get healthy, like truly, truly healthy, nothing physically wrong with him, I'm telling you, the things that Justin Ross could do in a Kansas City offense, I mean, with a guy like Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball, I mean, they might have the steal. They'd have an epic steal. Kansas City would if he gets healthy and bounces back next season and is actually the Justin Ross that we all know he can be. I'm telling you, man. Patrick Mahomes may have another one out there in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So I really hope he gets healthy. And the good thing about this entire Super Bowl is, regardless of who wins, two of our Clemson Tigers are going to get rings.
Yep.
So it's a win-win for us Clemson fans, Jordan. But just to end with Justin Ross's, us talking about him here, 159 receptions, 289 yards, and 20 touchdowns. And that's basically being healthy for 2.5 seasons.
Yeah.
If you even count the other half season when he was banged up his senior year, right? So majority of that was done in 2 seasons, which is crazy. Crazy stat line. He is a national champion, and he might be a Super Bowl champion by Sunday night. Which would be crazy. All right, we got one more guy to talk about, and this is a really cool story. This is a super cool story. Cornell Powell, the infinite wide receiver backup that saw the field sparingly literally his entire career, until suddenly the 2020 COVID season, him and Amari Rodgers just took over Clemson's wide receiving core, which was super hampered. A lot of question marks on the Clemson wide receiver core, and Cornell was a guy, and this is a guy this is the type of player that Dabo, likes to talk about, right? This is Dabo's caution for players against the transfer portal and against not staying at one place and putting in the work and all this stuff. And part of it's true, right? Like Cornell Powell will always be a legend in Clemson for what he did in one season. Like, he will forever be remembered by Clemson fans. Maybe not so much nationally, but Clemson fans, we will always remember what Cornell Powell did in 2020, because he came out of nowhere. Not a single person expected Cornell Powell to do what he did in 2020. I know I didn't. No. I guarantee you probably didn't. And we follow Clemson football probably as closely as you could follow it. And nobody saw it coming. Just an absolute breakout senior season. It was amazing to watch. Like, it's a story of, just waiting your turn, buying your time. And when he got his opportunity, he was ready. He hit the ground running. So he showed that he was working in the shadows, and he was literally just waiting for an opportunity, and everything fell into place. And then he parlayed that into being drafted in the 5th round to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, he's been waived a couple times and spent most of his time on the practice squad. But think about that. A guy that everybody only thinks about, including Clemson fans, as just a backup. He's just a guy that, gets in there when there's a blowout, or, somebody needs a breather on the sideline. We put Cornell Powell in. And then he steps in and really becomes like, wide receiver 1 for a team that is known to produce, some pretty amazing receivers. So I just think it's a cool story of him just waiting his turn, biding his time. He didn't transfer. He obviously wasn't pouting in the background, because, you don't have a breakout season like that if you're not working hard behind the scenes. and really putting in the work in practice and in the film room and all that kind of stuff. And it's always a cool story when you see guys like that finally put it all together. And it was his last chance, right? 5th-year senior, his last opportunity, and he really took advantage of his last opportunity in college. And now people may be like, oh, well, he's just on the practice squad. Like, look, man, that's a huge accomplishment to be on a practice squad for an NFL team. Like, I know it's not, as glamorous as being, the number one wide receiver on whatever team, but it's a huge accomplishment, especially when you think about the grind that he's had to go through. Just a super cool thing, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Just really cool story. Just one of those, stay the course. Wait patiently. Your opportunity is going to come. That kind of story. And Cornell is a really great example of that. From Greenville, North Carolina. Shout out to Greenville, home of the ECU Pirates. It's my mom's alma mater, so really cool. He went to J.H. Rose High School. So just a really cool story. He was a 4-star recruit coming out. And just like you said, a guy that was, he spent a lot of his time on special teams.
Yep.
He came in sparingly to block, never really got a whole ton of targets.
Nope.
And just kind of he was just kind of a depth piece. And you think back to that 2020 season, going into it, especially with the news that, Justin Ross wasn't going to be able to play that year. And then you had guys like Joseph Ngata and Frank Ladson on the team that were struggling with injuries all season. And once you got past those three, Clemson's wide receiver room was really, really thin.
You're like, who we got to play?
Especially, especially on the outside. And you had E.J. Williams, who actually played really well that year, especially came on really late. We all thought he was going to, we all thought he was just going to be the next Ross.
Yeah, exactly. That was his kind of like Ross season, right? We're like,
yeah,
we got another one. He came from the same high school Ross came from. Here we go. And that ended up being his best season at Clemson. So,
yeah, obviously that didn't work out, but still, you had a lot of youth and not a lot of depth at that position. And Cornell Powell, he had to be the guy. You had Amari Rogers in the slot, and that was really it. As far as guys that had been in the program a long time. And so I especially think back to that Boston College game, because Cornell he played a little bit before that game, but when Trevor Lawrence was announced out with COVID, and it was DJ's first start at home against Boston College.
Yep.
I think that was the moment where Cornell really, I think it just clicked for him. I remember he was kind of the unsung hero of that game. He had double-digit catches in that game, over 100 yards, and he was kind of along with ETN, he was kind of that safety blanket for DJ and allowed Clemson to mount that comeback. They were down 18 points.
Yeah, 18 points. He had 11 catches for 105 yards.
Yep.
I think that was his first ever 100-yard game as a Clemson Tiger. And his first ever double-digit catch game. I think his only double-digit catch game, maybe. But I don't think he ever caught that many, at least that many catches. But he had more yardage. He had bigger yardage games later on.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, definitely bigger
Notre Dame games. That first Notre Dame game, he had a big game.
He went off. Yeah, he went off.
And I think he really emerged, and I think everything just clicked for him there. And just watching him, he was such and then the Notre Dame game, like I mentioned, obviously Clemson didn't end up winning that game, but Cornell had a huge game. I think he had like 140 receiving. He had like 130 receiving.
He had 6 catches for 161.
6 catches for 161. Yeah, so I was selling him short.
So he had look at this 3-game stretch here, okay? Because you're talking about how the first 6 games of the season, up through the Syracuse game, he was kind of, he was catching balls, he was contributing, but you talking about that Boston College game on, let me read you these stats, okay? So Boston College, he went 11 catches for 105 yards. And then he followed it up with Notre Dame, 6 catches for 161. And then he follows that up in Pittsburgh with another 6 catches for 176.
Mm.
That's a 3-game stretch where he's over 100, like well over 100 yards each game. And a touchdown in both the Notre Dame and the Pittsburgh game. So, I mean, he really, the second half of the season for Cornell Powell, I mean, he really just took off. Like you say, that you're right. That Boston College game was really his spring step into, okay, we can trust this guy. This guy can actually get it done. And he definitely did. And even in the Ohio State game that we lost,
he played amazing in the Ohio State game.
He played great. He had 2 touchdowns. What was it? 8 catches for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean,
I still have that clip saved. It was him and Sean Wade. He was lined up with Sean Wade was lined up, and he ran one of the cleanest routes I've ever seen a Clemson wide receiver make, and Sean Wade literally falls over like on his knees.
Yeah.
It was pretty incredible, and I think he scored on that play. And so, man, Cornell Powell, he was really fun to watch, and it was such a out of nowhere surprise. You know, that second half of 2020, he was Clemson's best receiver. I mean, Amari was great. I think Amari had over 1,000 yards that year, so Amari was great too. But I think the real story was Cornell's just out of nowhere emergence, and it's one of those. It goes back to one of those old adages of, success. And I think, and Dabo has said it before. You know, success is when preparation meets opportunity.
There you go.
And so I think Cornell was a really great example of that. So, I was happy to see him get drafted. And
I bet you that's a guy that Dabo still talks about.
Yeah.
To his young players, right?
He's probably mentioned it to some of the receivers that have transferred since then.
That's probably,
yeah.
He probably mentioned it to EJ.
Yeah.
Probably mentioned it, to quite a few people. But what a story, man. All these dudes really, man. Like I love just, talking about, these guys that are moved on to the NFL, just the careers that they had. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. The stat line that he put up. I'm trying to see where he was coming into that season. I know I saw it somewhere. I'm trying to find it. They gave like the stat line of like where his stats were prior to his final season and kind of where they were afterwards. I can't find it. But it was obviously a crazy stat line.